Hello, viewers. I'm SB,
And I'm Amabel.
and welcome back to
Yeah.
Avowed, where we finished having I don't know if I would say productive conversation, an interesting conversation with this fellow, and now we're going to go and discover his shards or whatever. Our our quest indicator up in the upper left is like desperately trying to get us back on track, but it ain't happening. I found a thing to get involved in.
But you can change what the active quest is, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Sargamus, it has been some time since your last correspondence, and I do hope you are still well. Have the materials and spare equipment from my lab proven reliable? You know how temperamental and finicky old equipment gets. I swear, these machines have souls of their own. But I digress. I look forward to hearing the latest news about your progress. I have no doubt that the completion of your project will change the world, and knowing you, it will certainly be for the better. That I have had a part to play in this fills me with a deep joy and satisfaction. Perhaps one day they shall write about us. I can see it now. The Oracle and the Visionary, a titillating tale of two thinkers and their thoroughly thought-provoking theories. On second thought, perhaps simply The Oracle and the Visionary will suffice. Eagerly awaiting your response, your friend Vitor. P.S. It is good that I forgot to send this after it dried. Ulrask would be very cross with me if I did not relay once more that he is, and I quote, rather looking forward to giving Sargamus' oversized animat a proper thrashing if he ever gets it functional. Oh, that Ulrask. Until next time, my friend. Again, I do think it is like specifically not a good idea to build a giant stone body for this god,
Yeah.
given everything that we know.
I mean, is it ever a good idea to build a giant stone body for any god?
Maybe. Surely some of them would be more responsible with it than others.
Yeah, but why do they need it? You know?
Gods compel you to do things. That's their whole stock in trade, right?
That sounds like a character flaw.
This door is barred.
I would not let a god talk me into anything.
Okay, we got some
The bridge
electric.
is out, but that looks like the way to the relic.
Yes, thank you, Kai. I'm actually not able to fit my big ass through here, so we're just gonna wander around for a bit.
This reminds me of the strangle route. But how is anything this big going all the way down here?
You know, there are a lot of things about this place that are pretty anomalous, in my opinion.
It sure is gorgeous, though. Gosh.
Yeah, you like it?
You know, yeah, like the color, like I appreciate a AAA game that is not afraid to have color and vibrancy and just be beautiful to look at. You know, I think generally, I am more in line with games that have a smaller art budget.
Yeah.
You know, but when done well and done thoughtfully, artfully, with a purpose to evoke a sense of place and wonder, yeah, I can dig it sometimes.
Notes on Godless Language Translation. This damp tome collects the Oracle's wide-ranging and often contradictory thoughts on the origin and translation of the Godless's written language. His musings range across the page at odd angles, at times clearly carefully considered, at others dashed off, improvisational, inspired. Arrows loop across the pages to stab at phrases, and dates are circled and underlined with such ferocity that the parchment tears. Given the book's length and density, it would appear the Oracle labored over the mysteries of the Godless for several years, before ultimately turning his attention elsewhere. A small sample reads, the Godless wrote, that much is clear, but their tablets are, nevertheless, maddeningly rare. What few I find in the ruins appear to have been crushed, and their rooms that look as though they were intended to house great libraries are left utterly bare. And when I do find something of interest, it's rarely intact. The Godless came to these lands centuries ago, and some degradation in their tablets is to be expected, such as the nature of hand-shaped and fired clay. But they couldn't have been in the living lands for more than 2,000 years. I feel a mind at work here. Someone, or several someones, must have sought their writing out and destroyed it. Which makes the possibility of translating their script only appear ever more remote. The structures of their sentences shift wildly across decades, or else I understand even less of their grammar than I thought. But my God, tell me, what inspires a culture to suddenly shift from subject-object-verb to subject-verb-object, or to case their nouns and then, as if by fiat, to not? I feel that at least a shadow of an answer must lie in the one complete tablet in my possession, and in a word that appears in nearly every fragment I find. Inviton. Well, now that's very curious indeed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I also appreciate the way the book is described, and then we're given an excerpt. Because, again, my point of reference for a game like this, and like this is in quotation marks,
Yeah.
is like the Bethesda stuff where it's just treated as like a whole book, but it can be like 4 pages long, and so having some are quite longer, but having a thing recognized as a book, but only given us the relevant bits. I don't know. I feel like that gives it more verisimilitude for me, and I appreciate the thought that went into that.
See, this space right here caught me with the awe for a second there. I don't know if you could see that in the way I was using the camera, but I stepped in here and I was like, well, oh, hello there.
Right behind you.
I would not want the library so close to the water.
Fuck you.
Another one
How do you think these spiders do with ow, ice magic? Okay, that's pretty effective. Nice.
didn't stand a chance.
How you doing over there? Oh, you got one. Kai,
Good job, buddy.
I'm so impressed. Interesting. That's not going to be anything, but
Here it comes.
Kai, go ahead and burn it anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so far those weird like web balls have never actually revealed anything or turned into anything. All right, I'm pretty pleased with having picked up the ice spell for us, because it seems like it's going to do a lot of good in a lot of situations. We're going to read these books for sure. I'm going to approach them in a slightly more sensible order, because I bet we're getting a lot of pieces of the same book. But I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that spider before we start touching things. So, can I make it up there? Probably. It doesn't. I don't see any highlighted books up there, though. So let's just start here from the entrance. This waterlogged book. The writing in this tome is dense and spidery, and it advances across the page at a sprint, as if its author's pen had been enchanted with a spell for celerity. Whatever muse ensorcelled it will never be revealed, however, for the book's fragile pages swiftly disintegrate in your hands.
I also really appreciate the description of the handwriting. Like, it emphasizes these things as written books rather than, a printed thing. And, like, they're all assumed to be written, but, like, again, I come from looking at the Bethesda kind of games where, there's no different character to the text.
Okay. I'm not sure that I would agree with that necessarily.
Okay. Well, I could be talking out of my hat. It's just I like the touch of, like, describing the way a particular writer or scribe's handwriting is going to be different in a book from a vaguely medieval period.
Yeah. I think there's some differences in the, well, whatever, it's not the point. True stories from the Living Lands. Only the hardiest of explorers would dare take the long, dangerous trek to the Living Lands. While there is no denying its beauty, the diversity of plant life alone is an herbologist's dream. The inherent risk in blithely trekking through these pristine hills is more than most should undertake. Let me take a moment to tell you about the land itself. Rolling hills, greenery, and sun. The whole area feels like a succession of hills and valleys, each with its own ecosystem. While that declaration is a tad extreme, it can almost be said to be true. The combination of sun, geographical location, proximity to fresh water, valley depth, and the existence of hot springs have given the living lands a wide breadth of flora and fauna. Walk down a hillside into a valley, and you will find lush, verdant hills. Climb the next rise, and you might see nothing but rock and boiling mineral springs. And the creatures! Oh, in my travels I've seen it all, and this place never ceases to amaze me. Trolls. I will never forget my encounter with the trolls of the living lands. I had just narrowly avoided being consumed by a giant plant, more on that later, and was running as fast as I could to get away from it. I broke the crest of the hill, and the valley below was wide, green, wet, and covered with low, thick-branched trees. Vines grew everywhere. Between the trees, across the tops of them, down to the ground, it was a mess of vine and green. Cautiously, I worked my way down toward the basin, keeping an eye out for anything suspicious. And it's a good thing I did so. I noticed not all the trees appeared to be trees. I froze, dropping to the ground in an effort to minimize my appearance. One of the trees moved, lumbering slowly away from the cluster. It is then that I realized it was a troll, stepping out from among the group of trees that had been resting against. With a few more steps, I would have walked right into their home. The camouflage these trolls exhibited far exceed any I had ever seen before. I hope to return again in the future and observe them more. Insects. While I have never seen them, I have read reports of giant insects in the living lands. Centipedes, flies, mosquitoes, and hornets, all 10 times the size you would see them elsewhere. Yeah, I'm not excited about it either. Imagine making camp. You've just gotten everything set up. There's a nice fire going next to your shelter. Something is gently simmering in the cooking pot. You sit down, finally feeling like you can relax after a trying day. You feel a tickling at your feet, insistent and prolonged. Reaching down to brush whatever it is away, your hand comes in contact with something hard, long, and flexible, winding its way around your boot. You look down to see a centipede the size of your arm, casually making its way over your feet toward the far side of your camp. You would get out of that camp, wouldn't you? Well, that's exactly what my friend did when he realized he had started his fire over a centipede nest. Plants. And lest we forget, do not let your guard down around the plants. I had discovered a wonderful collection of giant flowers. They were bright pink and grew in a circle around a central stalk. What an aroma! I lack the words to describe how delectable it was. Sweet, fruity, and light, with just a hint of something tangy. Looking closer, I saw some berries growing on the stalk in the center of the flowers. Well, I just had to have them. So I started pushing my way through the flowers. Then the vines growing around the base of the plant began to twitch, and the blooms turned toward me. It was at that moment I saw the blooms weren't actually flowers, but hinged jaws. I had been fooled by its camouflage. I quickly retreated, pushing my way back out, and just in time. The blooms slammed shut. If I had been still standing there, trying in vain to reach the berries, I wouldn't be writing this book today. Okay, so some things to look out for, I guess.
Now, you're not a big fan of stinging insects. Do you find them worse than centipedes?
What? They're all bad.
Okay. Well, I like centipedes, but like a silverfish particularly is something that's a trouble for me.
Yes, absolute nightmares.
Okay.
The Great Western Stag. One day, Eothas was sitting on a wall watching a cat play in the sun. A crystal hung in a nearby tree had fragmented a sunbeam and scattered small motes of light on the ground. They danced around the cat, sliding over him as he frantically batted at them. He spun in place, following one as it rushed past him, and leaped on it, trying to pin it down. Eothas smiled, amused at the animal's tenacity. The cat landed on a spot, placing his paws over it only to watch it flit away again. Eothas watched the cat's tail twitch and slap at the ground, annoyed that his prey could not be pinned. "Why must you tease him?" a voice said from behind him, accompanied by the crunch of sandals on gravel. "I merely bring the dawn," Eothas responded. "I don't stoke the hunter's heart. That's your responsibility, isn't it?" "True," said a second voice, "but neither do you quell it. If the hunter could not see his prey, would he still hunt?" So philosophical, Hylia. Eothas said, and turned to greet the two gods that approached him. "Have you come to debate the parallel between sight and desire?" He gestured to the wall, inviting Hylia and Galawain to join him. They sat in silence, watching the cat who continued to hunt the sun, fruitlessly swatting at another mote and then rolling onto his back. "I have created the ultimate prey," Eothas said finally, breaking the silence. "It can be tracked, it can be followed, it can be seen, but it can never be caught." Galawain laughed lightly. "You don't agree, Galawain?" Eothas asked. "While it's true that your creation is elusive, it hardly can be considered the ultimate prey because it never can be caught." He paused, his brow furrowed in thought. If that mote of light had substance, the hunter could subdue it. Otherwise, it's merely a dream, truly a fruitless endeavor. "All creatures spend their lives chasing fruitless endeavors," said Hylia. "It is the way of mortality." Galawain laughed again. "I could create a creature, a living creature of flesh and blood that could never be caught. I make your dream a reality." Now it was Eothas' turn to laugh. "You propose turning a fruitless dream into a fruitless reality. How is this any better? A life spent in the pursuit of an attainable goal far exceeds any other." "But you just said no one could catch this creature. This is not attainable." Galawain smiled. "Humanity has surprised us before. Indeed, it could surprise us again. I will create a great white stag, and I will set it free in the world. It will have grace, resilience, and tenacity. It will exist solely to be pursued for all its days, and it will never be caught. It will serve to inspire the hunt for generations to come. All those who wish for glory will invoke my name. All those who hear its story will ask for my blessing in finding it." Hylia shook her head and threw Galawain a bemused look. "I do not believe this is possible, so I too make an offer. To the person who catches this stag, and they will catch the stag, I will bestow upon them its grace, resilience, and tenacity. Thrice blessed will they be. They will ask for my blessing on the hunt so they can obtain my boon." Galawain and Hylia took up arguing whose name would be invoked more when the hunt was on. Eothas sighed, a small smile playing at the edges of his mouth. He stood and looked to the sky. The sun had already started to hide itself behind the mountains. The cat, long ago tired of stalking the motes, had fallen asleep beneath the tree. He turned and looked at the other gods, deep in debate, and sighed again. "I merely bring the dawn," he repeated as he made his way down the path. "It is up to you to see what I reveal."
All right.
I like that as a sort of a religious story because it's much less directly pointed than a lot of these are.
Yeah.
Nothing is lost. The search for Ukaizo. Excerpted from the collected journals of Wanamora Wave Chaser. "The Ranga's men came to collect my portion of prize share this morning, and I had nothing to give them again. I make no money for the tribe, though I am always in my little ferry boat, Grey Gull, carving through the waves. At night I get no sleep. Waitaro asks me to conserve the lamp oil, to come to bed, but I can't. Not until I find it. I know it's out there, the lost city of Ukaizo. On every chart and map of the Deadfire I've found, whether Huana, Vailian, or Rawatayan, there is a gap, an empty space where so much of our history should be. Did it burn to ash and cinders in the cataclysm? Did it sink below the waves? Does Ngati clutch it to her breast at the bottom of the sea? Or perhaps it's lost and wandering, like me, unmoored, looking for a home it can't remember, but for which some insistent longing burns in its chest, an ember always smoldering, a little fire to push it on. Waitaro wants me to give it up, but how can I? On mornings when the sky is so clear I can hardly catch my breath for the beauty of it, I think I see it out there, shimmering in the brightening blue light. Is it a taunt or a beckoning? Would I be able to tell the difference? I ask the fisher folk when they return with their catch at sunset. Tiberi, I say, did you see anything? Or you, Mabori? How about you, Puera? They avoid me now. Waitaro says they're busy, but I know they think I'm tide-sick and sun-addled. The way Puera's lip curls in disgust when I approach, the way Tiberi's eyes seem to see right through me. I know. They won't have to suffer me much longer, because tomorrow I'm taking Grey Gull and sailing north. Someone has to chase the old tales. So I will. The Annals of the Pargrunin. It was in the time of Edrahild the Sure-Footed that we came to Cleban Relag. Okay, so there's some Gaelic, I'm much more comfortable with some of the language bases than others.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that I think Gaelic is beautiful, I really don't know how the letters produce the sounds. So apologies to all y'all out there watching this and being like, that's terrible. She's so wrong. It was in the time of Edrahild the Sure-Footed that we came to Cleban Relag, an ancient place of the builders, as the locals call them. It was a marvelous sight, a door in the mountain framed by a pair of ghoulish aspects. Through some exercise of trickery or cunning, Edrahild was able to gain access for our scholars, that we might observe and record what lay inside. And we discovered a foundry of sorts, the like of which neither we nor our distant brethren had seen. Through careful observation, we surmised that the ancients had used this place to extract souls and transfer them to suits of armor. Delicate and challenging work, yet the scale they had achieved left us humbled and astounded. Perhaps most remarkable were the golems, living suits of armor powered by essence. We lost 2 of our fellows when the creatures caught us unawares, but once we'd subdued them, they proved quite fascinating. All too aware that our hosts would never again allow us, nor other curious travelers, to visit this place, we took meticulous notes and measurements of all we saw, forsaking bread and sleep until the work was done. We reported all to Edrahild, whereupon he praised our work and urged us quickly forward, for if such a place lay abandoned in the forest, who can say what other mysteries gods and kith have left in this strange and wild land? Okay, so this book over here, is it enough to just jump? It is. Although I also noticed there's a hole in the plank above it where probably we could get up there and look down on it. A History of the Living Lands 3, Glossolalia. In the ruins of Ukaizo, the great city of the ancient Huana of the Deadfire, I once found a curious inscription. The inscription was written in 3 languages and arranged in a circle around a small pool of water. 2 of the languages were unknown to me. The first of these scripts was largely runic, rounded and orderly, and looked like it was meant to be painted rather than chiseled into stone. It put me to mind of the architecture of Engwith, with its frequent arches and odd conjunctions of angles. The other language branched off one long stem. This one was curious. At first I thought I was meant to read it left to right, but the characters' shapes didn't have a flow that felt intentional. It wasn't until I tilted my head that I understood I was attempting to read it on its side, and that I was instead meant to read it top to bottom and likely right to left. Fascinating. I have seen nothing like it in all Eora. The third of these scripts I recognized. It was near ancient Huana, a language I'd studied idly in my youth. I had been obsessed with its more logographic predecessor, far ancient Huana, for many years. What a pleasure at last to see something I knew. After a few hours of meditation, I recall enough of the alphabet to take a stab at a transcription. Ka wingaro o waturi ti katua ne kipu nui o ukaizo ne kingi o kingi. Ka ne na anoa a ngati kua ite ane Hinoke Aki Katinga. Wingaro Owaturi, King of Ukaizo, the King of Kings. It has the cadence of a dedication. Could this last inscription be the key to deciphering the two other unknown languages? Yeah, sort of like a what's it called? A Rosetta Stone kind of
The Rosetta Stone,
situation. I think I can get up there.
Man, the Rosetta Stone's so cool.
Oh, I can't get up there this way though. Did we read this one? We didn't read this one yet. On the Fire-Forged Path, The Travels of Garrick Iltan. This book is well worn and smells faintly of mildew. Its spine is cracked, and as you thumb through the book's pages, it falls open to a folio more ragged and dog-eared than the others. Oh, you just like it when they do the descriptions?
Well, the books. Go ahead and read this thing, and
Okay.
then I'll say a thing.
Though I was born and raised a Magronite, and a Magronite now I will stay. As a young man, I undertook a pilgrimage to visit a holy house dedicated to every god. In so doing, I hoped to know them each the better, to take what they had to teach and sow it into my soul like so many seeds, that my soul might grow and bear only the most delectable fruit for my goddess to devour at the moment of my death. So it is with no small amount of amusement that I pen this account of my visit once to a church of Whale, the many-eyed, many-tongued god of dreams and secrets, revelations and mysteries, and reveal to you all I learned there. The challenge came first in finding adherents to Whale's doctrine, for they are not often ones to announce their presence, preferring instead to build their flock from the solitary seekers who delve through ancient ruins and ruined archives in search of the strange, the bizarre, and the forgotten. But persistence is my goddess's first teaching, and find them I did. The Whaleites' Nekatakan congregation was small then, as it likely remains now, and on the morning I stumbled upon them, they were lounging like so many cats in the sun on the steps above Queen's Berth, sharing between them a bottle of arrack and pipes packed with white leaf and ripple sponge. I knew them for Whaleites, not for any badge or robe or trinket they wore, not for their race or age, but for the ardor of their debate on the most benign of topics. I begged that they take me to their church and permit me to worship with them, and they laughed as one, their many voices like the howling of wild dogs. They acquiesced when I told them of my quest, and then invited me to sit and share their drink. I did, and as the arrack burned a trail of fire down my throat, they showed me the dimensions of their hall of worship. The stairs were their pews, they said, the blue sky their ceiling, and their walls the edges of the world. All of creation sits within its bounds. As morning neared midday, they stood as one and began to climb the mountain. "Where do you go now?" I asked. "To worship," they replied. A great wave of relief washed over me, for at last I would have my lesson from them. We climbed the many steps of Nekataka and arrived at last in the sacred stair. "Where is your temple?" I asked, and in response they whooped like children, rushing past me in a squall of smoke and laughter. I followed as best I could, though I wet my good slippers in a stream, and could hardly keep my feet on the moss-slick stones, and we surged, soggy-footed and hollering, into the temple of Gaon. To worship, they cried. We shoved past dawn stars bent in praise of their macabre god, laughing all the while, and came to stand before a leafless tree whose boughs were hung in lanterns too numerous to count. I had nary a moment to catch my breath before the Whaleites were clambering into the great tree's branches. A young man pulled me up with one hand and handed me a pipe with the other. The priests of Gaon screeched and wailed, and all the while we squawked like birds, our smiles wide and eyes alight with arrack and lantern fire. The Mataru came soon after us to chase us away, but not before we'd done our share of singing to the many-eyed, many-tongued god of dreams. Would that I could have stayed with them a while longer, but alas, I could not deny my soul its journey, nor the whispers of my goddess in my ear. I took again to the road in search of churches, but I must admit, ever after, I longed always after for that tree. Could use a little bit of editing there at the end. You only need one of those ever afters.
So the thing I like about I like the physicality of books. I think a
Yeah.
lot more than you do. You're not really a physical objects person.
I think that's
So,
fair to say. Okay.
so the description of the book of the binding being cracked and the being kind of mildewy and dog-eared, like it just
Aha.
kind of has a resonance for me because I spent about 15 years working in a library, working with books, and I wasn't in like the rebinding area, but I did see someone working on it a couple times, and it just the physical process of it is something I find really
Aha.
it's a good I like that they describe the books is the point I am making. Also, may I say, you're doing a phenomenal job reading them.
Thank you.
I love listening to you read things. Also, you're walking on those candles
Yep.
or through them. I don't feel like that's super safe.
Okay. I kind of figured that there wasn't going to be a reason to be up here, that this was a decorative area, and yeah, it turns out. But I also was pretty sure I could get up here with the stuff gathered around, so why not,
No.
right?
I mean, the point of the game is to climb on things, right?
Yes, that's how you win. That's how you win the game.
Yeah. See, the point of a system is what it does, and the system lets you climb on things. So clearly, they made a game for climbing.
I can't argue with that. Or, I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. We'll just have a little bit of tea to replenish ourselves while we read the collected annals of Lingrath. Whomever copied this work appears to have been in a great hurry, as if they feared being caught. The gods strip us of who we are on every turn about the wheel, mercilessly shaving off all we've learned with their divine lathes. We retain the pale shadows of our souls, but knowledge, memory, self, all of it is cut away. Do the gods fear we might someday rival their strength if they do not? The trees of Glanfath possess souls as strong as any kith, and their entangled roots extend for miles. But dig beneath any of them, follow those roots, and you'll see they don't end, but lead to a neighbor. They're many souls sharing one body. Why shouldn't willing kith be able to do the same? A limb may be grafted from one tree to the trunk of another, and in time they'll bear sweeter fruit together than either might have done alone. Mightn't it be possible, then, to graft a scion soul to the rootstock of a willing kith? The souls wouldn't fracture, but coalesce. They'd grow stronger together. The gods see fractured souls, but they don't care for them. Damaged, broken people are abandoned by their makers to twist in the wind, given no succor, no relief. Would an intentionally fractured soul be similarly inconsequential to them? I will use their apathy against them. I will make their disdain serve me. A grafted soul is obscured from the sight of the gods. It spreads freely like a blood fever, but doesn't kill its host. No, I will be a fever of the spirit, invisible, unstoppable, eternal. Huh. Well, I mean, that sounds like the kind of thing that if you were to walk it a couple steps forward, might end up in exactly the sort of dream plague that we're dealing with now.
Yeah, a little bit.
The life and discoveries of Pangram. Mention the name Pangram to anyone with even a passing knowledge of animancy, and you could find yourself in for a very long discussion. Publicly reviled but privately lauded as a hero and genius, Pandgram's history is at turns revolutionary, horrific, and mysterious. Pangram was fascinated, some might say obsessed, with the concept of animancy. It consumed his life as he dedicated everything to understand it. He would frequently travel to Glanfath and the Direwood to visit the Engwithan ruins. There he would take notes and make sketches, bringing anything back with him that he could to help him unlock the mysteries. After years of study, Pangram had reached the point where he could no longer conduct research on his own, and he took on an assistant, Helig of Thene. Soon, Helig was making trips to Glanfath in Pangram's stead, gathering knowledge while Pangram stayed behind to experiment. This partnership quickly bore fruit, and Pandagram made a breakthrough, one that would irrevocably change his life and the general attitude about animancy forever. While the specifics of his experimentation will never truly be known, the rumors and stories that still circulate tell that he had sent out inquiries asking for live subjects for help with a dangerous experiment that might change their life or end it. Those who were already dying were especially encouraged to apply. Response was overwhelming, and Pandagram had his pick of numerous willing bodies. And that is when he had his breakthrough. He discovered a way to fix a soul, anchoring it to its body so it couldn't leave at death. He had discovered eternal life. His research and life's work had resulted in the greatest single discovery that animancy could hope for. His findings were published and quickly spread through Vilia and beyond. While some groups, the Wodekin Church for example, decried his work as nothing more than blasphemy and heresy, many put it to practice. Everyone wanted the chance at immortality. But everything comes with a cost. It quickly became apparent that simply restraining the soul, while keeping the person technically alive, was doing nothing for the body, which continued to decay, devolving and warping the soul now trapped inside it. The creatures it created were dangerous, carnivorous beasts that killed brutally and indiscriminately. The backlash was ruthless. The practice of Pandagram's discoveries was outlawed. His works were collected and burned. He and Helig were branded heretics and hunted, chased from town to town, until Pandagram simply vanished. Helig was tracked down, captured, and brought to trial for the atrocities committed against Vilia and its people. The trial was barely more than a formality to bring charges against him, as everyone knew what hand he had played in the disaster. He was sent to prison for years, but eventually released once public outrage died down. Not long after his parole, he disappeared as well. Occasionally, talk surfaces that a copy of Pandagram's theorems has been found, untouched by the purging flames that destroyed its brothers. These rumors seldom end up being more than that. Many groups and wealthy individuals have formed, sending out a call to anyone who will listen. Find us a copy of the theorems. They offer gold, jewels, status, anything they can to entice adventurers to help them achieve their goals. For there are those who would give anything for a chance at immortality, even become a monster. It gets a little choppy at the end here. I was trying to correct it as I was reading it.
But up until that point, like the writing's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave
Better than I'm
gonna leave this bit for last.
Okay.
The Eothasian Prayer. And the sun shall break through the darkness, the new dawn arriving with the rebirth of day. Rejoice, all ye who dwelleth in the shadow, who are broken and beaten. The winter soon comes to an end. Spring shall rise, bringing light and life to the world. Radiant light, radiant life, and thy soul shall find warmth in his arms. All creatures bask in his glory. The rays of his countenance bathe the world, bringing an end to the night, ushering in the day. Kneel before him and wonder at his benevolence. Feel the warmth of his radiant presence. If thou art broken, he shall make thee whole. If thou art in darkness, he shall bring thee to the light. If thou art sinful, thou shalt be reborn. If thou art cold, his warmth shall bolster thee. How canst I, so lowly and worn, speak words of proper adulation? Thine eyes, whose gaze sees the sin in me, yet still shows love. Thine hands, whose grip pulls me out of the darkness. Thine ears, listening to my every prayer. Thine heart, bright as the dawn, giving me warmth when I am raw. Eothas, light of spring, sun of the world, thou givest me life and purpose. If thine heart be black, if thine intention be impure, thy life is forfeit. For he hath seen, he can see, he will see. Nothing is hidden from his glory. His light touches every corner of the world. Nothing is hidden from his sight. If thou doest thy work in the dark, if thou wouldst keep thine actions hidden, thou shalt be burned in the sun of the new dawn. Day comes soon. Prepare for the dawn. Nothing is hidden from his reach. Gets a little threatening at the end there.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing terribly interesting over here. The Direwood, Part 5, The Proliferation of Animancy. Animancy, outlawed while under Aedir rule, was technically no longer taboo after Hadrit's rebellion. Academics began its study again in earnest in 2681 AI. By 2697 AI, there were almost 40 academics actively researching the field, both in the Direwood and the Vailian republics, even though no significant results had been discovered. A tragic breakthrough of sorts happened in 2704. An animancer working in Baelreach accidentally shattered the souls of about 24 volunteers who had been helping him. In retaliation for the deaths, the citizens of the area stormed his house and killed him. The Earl of the region, not wanting to waste resources or anger the locals any more than they already were, did nothing to find the head of the vigilante mob. But neither did he outlaw animancy. To ensure their own safety, most animancers moved from the rural areas where they were studying and settled in Defiance Bay, many of them choosing the emerging and wealthy district of Brackenbury as their new home of operations. While there were still a few breakthroughs, and the study of animancy continued for the next 24 years, it quickly slowed as it became more cost-prohibitive and complicated the more people learned about it. Most animancers couldn't afford to continue research without the support of donations or gifts from wealthy individuals or organizations. In 2737 AI, some animancers, desperate to continue their studies and seeing no other means of furthering their research, entered the forbidden ruins of Air Glanfath to further their research. They discovered some such sites had strange artifacts that seemed to bear affinity to soul essence, and began to prod at the devices for further insight. Even with continued research, they are unable to tell quite what they have discovered. Eventually, they were found out by the Glenfathans, who captured some of them, demanding they be punished for their crimes. The Deerwooden authorities, in order to maintain their treaties and keep the peace, had no choice. They allowed the animancers to be executed according to Glenfathan tradition. This led the Duke to make an additional proclamation. The study and practice of animancy on or even near the sacred Glenfathan sites would be punishable by death. In 2780 AI, in order to solidify relations again with the Glenfathans, the Deerwooden government allowed some animancers to begin training and experiments in conjunction with Glenfathan mind hunters, their native ciphers. This was an exchange of information. The animancers documented the secrets of the mind hunters' powers, and the mind hunters learned new techniques for concentration which assisted them in taking their powers to a level no Glenfathan had ever seen before. The ciphers, no longer wary of the animancers' intentions, trusted them to such a level that they convinced the Glenfathans to give some animancers limited access to some of the training sites where the Glenfathans practiced. The Animfaths of the Glenfathan tribes opened the training grounds to the animancers. They were not allowed inside, as this was still strictly forbidden, but the general allowances by the Glenfathans were seen as a breakthrough in relations between the Direwood and Ir Glenfath. Over the next 8 years, the animancers' research would continue unimpeded. With the exception of some minor squabbles, there has been no major strife between the two groups for almost 120 years since. There's a lot of history, right? There's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, I appreciate the way all this kind of just circles around the animancy topic, though. Like it feels like the documents here have a purpose to help us figure some things out.
Yeah, like this is as sensible as a lab devoted to a topic. Like,
yeah.
All right, let's have a look at this statue schematic. This drawing details plans for the creation of a large statue powered by essence. The essence is intended to be injected into the statue by an array of animantic devices. Where such a vast store of essence might come from, and what a statue could do with it, is unclear.
I definitely feel like...
I don't know how unclear it is, really.
Yeah. I'm definitely getting more menace off of that guy now. You know, we had met this before. It was a little back and forth, but
Okay, I'm worried that this is actually the way to go somewhere. And so we're not there yet. Because I avoided this path because I was worried that this was the actual way forward.
yeah, that makes sense.
And it's not time yet. It does turn out that if I had just looked around, I could maybe have realized that that was not likely to be the case. But, you know, whatever. Is there actually, like... Aha!
Oh. Bully!
That's very...
Oh, yeah!
That's very fun to do.
Do you think... Because this is a PC game. PC games have mods, right?
Yeah, you can mod...
Do you think there is a mod that plays the "oh yeah" whenever you do that, and can we install it?
It seems like if there isn't, it seems like a thing that you'd be able to figure out. All right, this wants a little bit of electricity.
By the way, I'm sorry you had to do so much reading this time, sweetheart.
Why are you sorry?
Some of the games that you do, you have to do a lot of reading, and it can be a little rough on your beautiful voice to be having to read constantly.
I'm not 100% clear what the device that I just activated does. I mean, this was here, but it would have been here anyway, right?
Well, there's like a wire. You can follow
yeah,
the
it changed
wire,
that
right?
symbol to. As far as I can tell, the wire just runs to here. Does it come out the other side? Maybe. Doesn't seem to. Did we see?
There's not really a way to turn it off, is there? Because my thing would be to turn it off and see if something was different. There's another. Oh no, that's the same place. Never
Yeah.
mind.
I mean, there's definitely not a wire running back out the other side.
Now, that shield wasn't lit up before, though, right?
Well, it was lit up yellow.
Okay.
It turned to blue, but I don't really know what to make of it. I feel like we had seen the shield symbol somewhere else where it was yellow, and I'm wondering if I can figure out where that was.
And you would have bluified it.
Yeah, if it's turned blue, then we can make some guesses about what all is going on here. But I don't. I don't know. I'm not sure what I did. It's possible that all that was opening that treasure chest, but I think that treasure chest was probably open before and I just didn't touch it. Also,
Yeah.
I'm noticing that this is something that we did not check before. A clay tablet inscribed with a flowing vertical script in a language you've never seen before. Yuhazaizai Yazuhalu. Yep, that sure is a language I've never seen before. It has that word in it.
Also, I really appreciate in the thing we're talking about the different languages, different scripts, how different written languages, how it said that this one felt like it meant to be painted rather than inscribed in a clay tablet. Because one of the things that's really interesting about the development of writing, generally, but particularly like the alphabet that we have, is the way the medium that it was used for, adjusted the development of the actual letters. Where like you look at like the Phoenician alphabet is very chiseled. You know, by the time you get to the Roman alphabet, it's being done in a clay tablet a lot of the time, so you get slightly more rounding. I think that's neat. I think that's a neat bit of world building that I don't feel like I get enough of in fantasy settings. A lot of fantasy settings to me don't have a sense of real cultural history. It's a lot
Okay,
of
yeah, I can see that.
genealogies and battles, and you know, there's an ancient before time, but generally there's a sense of
Got it.
there's a sense of kind of a forever medievality rather than the way
Yeah, I know what you're talking
cultures
about.
shift and build on each other.
6
Yeah.
years in Dawn Shore, and I never knew something this big was under our feet the whole time.
Thank you for listening to me ramble on about that.
So there's another one of those symbols up there. Does that sound Zorips? The purification of the pilgrim. I hoped that in coming to this place, standing before the splinter, and turning my mind to prayer, that I would feel something, that I would experience the solace the other godlikes speak of, this state that they call grace. But my dreams remain as silent as this eerie godless tomb, and I am ashamed to feel so lonesome and bereft. To truly love the gods is to be faithful to the void. That is what the oracle tells me. If I look outside of myself to the here and now for that which I desire, that I will always remain unsatisfied. I must go down into myself, into the still wide emptiness, to discover that I already have everything I need. The many voices of wail I wish would whisper in my ear. Even had I heard them, they would not be evidence of their love. That evidence persists already in my soul, in the void to which I have not been true, and it has from the moment they plucked my soul from the wheel and gave it unto my body to be born. It is the chime. The chime is the evidence of their love, and if it is all that I ever have of them, then I should fall to my knees in gratitude, for it is more than most kith will get. But to know this solace that I seek, then I must give up any desire for their love, and learn to love the void. Huh. I wonder if that's a feeling that's sort of common among... Oh boy, that's a lot of Zorps. Common among followers of Whale in particularly, and if so, like just followers of Whale, or... Because, you know, Whale's whole thing would be... Ow. Would, of course, be cryptic, right?
Yeah.
Right flank.
I'm just trying to take out the caster
That's
before
a big old beetle.
any more of that happens.
Whoa.
Sure is. Alright, how about some of this? For the lot of you.
Had a giant beetle.
Okay, it was a water beetle that hit me with that projectile. I assumed when I took a shot earlier that it was another Zorib throwing spears or something. I didn't realize these things were shooting at us like that.
Another win, but who's counting?
Well, that was something.
Dream scourge ahead.
Yeah.
I hate to think it reaches all the way down here.
Thorns decide violence, essence twisted out of shape.
Okay, it doesn't seem like there's a lot else going on in this chamber. A lot that we're missing initially, at least. I was going to say that's definitely climbable, you know? And
Yeah.
another one of those machines. I wonder if I can hit that from here. Oops, not that button.
Beyond sync.
No, gotta get closer. Well, you know, we might actually have just the right tool for this.
Is that tool? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Beyond sync.
Alright, the function of this one was obvious enough. So, okay, taking this as an example, where the wire ran to a thing and the symbol was right next to the thing that the wire operated, it must be the case that that passage had the passage out of that room in the water was obstructed until we turned on the device.
Okay.
And then it opened like a doorway. And we just hadn't paid close enough attention necessarily to notice that.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that still looks like something, right?
Yeah.
Oops.
That
This
was
is the
pretty
one.
funny.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up there. And there might not be, you know, anything actually to go after.
But they gave you a thing to climb on. You're gonna climb. You're gonna try your best.
Yeah, getting to that height seems...
Okay, but is there? Do you think there might be another way?
maybe over there. Could be.
Yeah.
It could also be that that's just not actually anything.
I don't. It looks like it.
Alright. Ready for breaking stuff.
Yeah.
We're getting treasure noises over here. Aha. Alright, it seems pretty obvious they want us to go this way. However, it's
Yeah.
kind of been a long episode already. I hope you don't mind. I am feeling a little bit. I've not been feeling so great lately, and I'm still kind of not. And before we potentially get into
Yeah.
another big thing, I think I'd like to just call this one here.
Okay.
As soon as the credit scroll, actually, there it goes. It's catching up. It's having some trouble. My computer's haunted. Apologies, everyone. There we go. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for us for today. Thanks you all so much for watching. Sorry we made not a huge amount of actual distance here, but there was a lot of learning to do, and I'm glad that we did it. I think it was valuable.
I agree.
So come back next time for us continuing to chase this magical golem battery shard deeper and deeper into this place. And we'll see you then.